What's up, friends? This is Manni, and welcome to a massive ship rebalance for Star Citizen coming to the PTU. It's gonna be a longer video, but I summarize it very well for you and make it quick, okay? And some of you will be very unhappy with some of the changes, others will be happy. For instance, the F7A series is getting absolutely nerfed. There's, however, a big winner that many of you will enjoy. The F8C, sorry, is finally getting some love. Then we have the Corsair getting absolutely dunked on. Same as the Constellation series here getting completely destroyed as these universal all-round daily drivers. Then we have the Reclaimer getting nerfed in their extraction capacities, while the Fortune and Vulture getting buffs. All of that, I'm going to make it quick and show it to you. If you like this, one place where all the information is summarized for you, please stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. As usual, I try to make a visual reference for every item we speak about. Before we get to the ships though, make sure to be aware, your stations are now going to be very dangerous if you do something that you're not supposed to. The damage per projectile being fired at you by the size 10 defense systems goes from 1,700 to 25,000. 1,400% damage increase with the Bearing Laser Repeater size 10 security network being added. Okay, so if you expect your Idris to be powerful around stations, don't expect that any longer. It's gonna get shredded to pieces in seconds, okay? Which is weird, because I think a ship like that should feel powerful, but that's a different topic. Now, let's go to the ships, okay? Like I said, I'm trying to make it as short as I can, but it's still gonna be long. The Eclipse is getting a buff in SCM speed, slight buff 4%, max speed up to 1,105%, pitch getting up by 15, yaw getting down by 7. You'll see that across the board, the yaw always goes down while pitch goes up for some reason, and roll also goes up here, so that's the Eclipse. Redeemer, pitch plus 6%, yaw minus 6%. Then we have the first thing that many of you, including me, will be sad about. My Reclaimer is called the Sevastopol, and it's losing 35% of its extraction efficiency. That is really, really bad, okay? Because with the 4.2, the Reclaimer is already not in the best of places, and it's now extracting the loot 35% less efficiently into your ship. That is really a problem. And I don't think it's something you can bypass by switching to the Trawler salvage laser or something like this. You can maybe improve it slightly, but you're not gonna bypass that. So that is brutal. That is brutal. Sorry for you guys like me who also use the Reclaimer. Retaliator is getting a buff for SCM speed 3%, max speed 10% up to 1,100. However, pitch, yaw, and roll goes down by 17, 23, and 8%. So the mobility altogether, maneuverability, is getting nerfed. Saber and Saber Comet getting buffs in pitch, speed, and acceleration and engine power, basically. However, the yaw is as usual going down by 13%, so that one should be red. Then we have the Saber Firebird getting a 2% pitch and yaw nerf, not much here. Raven getting a pitch buff of 24% and yaw buff of 2%, so very interesting. The Raven is actually the one getting a yaw buff. Same as, by the way, Sentinel, Warden, and Harbinger getting yaw, pitch, and buffs for both, I mean. And as you can see here on screen, the numbers are a little different, that's why I split them up, but it's almost, it's very similar. Then we come to the big nerfs in the light and medium fighter. That's also something that they wrote here, that heavy fighters and interceptors will be balanced, as well as medium fighters. We'll see this here in the changes, with pitch minus 11%, yaw minus 11%, and roll minus 5%. For the F7A Hornet Mark II, F7A Mark I, F7C Hornet, then Hornet Tracker Mark II also, the Super Hornet Heatseeker Mark I, Super Hornet Mark I, and also, which hurts me a lot, my Hornet Ghost Mark II. The changes, by the way, are slightly different per each of these ships, but summarized, they're similar to this, okay? This is the heaviest one for the F7A Mark II, and the others are slightly less nerfed, but it's similar to that. Whereas the characteristics are only slight nerfs for Hornet Wildfire and Hornet Mark II F7C. and they only get a tiny nerf of -2%, 2%, and 1%. Then we have one of the great winners, and I hope there's more to come for the F8C, because the F8C is just flies like a tank, man. It needs some more mobility, and it's getting some of it, finally. Maybe coming a little closer to the Guardian series. The pitch goes up to 9% to 38 degrees per second. We have yaw going up by 13% to 35, and roll plus 4%. That is pretty awesome. So nice to see that the F7's why am I always saying this? The F8C is getting finally some love. Hurricane gets a bit of love too, with 2% pitch and 6% yaw. Nice. This ship was really hurting, and it should still get a lot more armor or HP, because it's a 2-man heavy fighter, right? But yeah, then we have the Santok Yai that gets a huge amount of changes. Pitch, yaw, roll, all of it goes up drastically. Then main thrust capacity goes down by 10%, but retro thrusters plus 100%, maneuvering thrusters plus 42%. Plus 5% acceleration, strafe goes down by 12%, up 20, down 100%. Fuel management, fuel usage per second is basically on a -10% on the main thrusters. Retro is changing, and maneuvering getting buffs when it comes to fuel usage. Alright, but overall you lose fuel faster, I think that's what it means. We have changes for A1 and C1, getting a pitch and yaw. Pitch 6% buff, yaw 17% nerf. Again, this should be red, sorry. So overall it seems to be more like a nerf than a buff. Inferno and Ion from the Starfighter series, 3% SPM speed increase, and we have a 1% boost forward increase, super tiny. Mercury Star Runner getting lots of changes, even HP parts. The structural hit points on vital parts, nose, from 12 to 14,000, 17% increase. Then the same for body parts, and we have flight characteristics, max speed buff to 1,300 nav speed, really high. Pitch though getting down by 17%, yaw 23% down, roll 12% down. This should be red. My apology, this is just difficult to do in this text format here. But the maneuverability is heavily nerfed on this ship. But boost forward, 25% increase, 24. Boost backward, 6% increase, and acceleration multiplier for y-axis, 13%. Quantum fuel capacity goes up by 23%, from 2.6 mil to 3.2 mil. So more long range oriented the ship from now on. The Buccaneer gets some structural hit points increase on the body, from 1,800 to almost 2,000, 8%, and the same for the nose, okay? But pitch and yaw goes down slightly by, no, pitch and roll by 2 and 3%. And here comes the big loser, their Corsair. Oh my goodness, look at that nerf. Oh man, I know this is like this universal super daily driver ship that people love, but it doesn't mean it has to get hit so hard. We have SCM speed going down from 200 to 190, max speed going up to 1025 from 1000, so slight buff there. Pitch goes down by 13%, yaw 33% decrease, from 30 degrees per second to 20 degrees, my friends. Roll goes down from 60 to 44, minus 27%. It will fly like a freaking barn, a flying building. It will freaking heck, it will fly like a 890 or something like this. Not quite as bad, I hope. Thrust capacity goes down. Retro thrusters going down, minus 20%. Maneuvering, minus 18%. Acceleration forces are going down with it. We have the master most boost forward from 400 to 390. Then fuel usage is staying basically the same, but the retro and maneuvering thrusters getting a different fuel consumption that is increased. It is an exploration ship, it still has a lot of reach and range, and it stays that way, but man, that maneuverability nerf is hard. Cutlass also here, pitch minus 17%, yaw minus 10, roll minus 20%, dude. Blue, the Cutlass Blue, minus 16, minus 6, minus 20 on pitch, yaw, roll. Pitch, yaw, roll, minus 16, minus 9, minus 20. 21 on the Cutlass Red. So it's a little similar to, the numbers are a little different, but they're overall relatively similar. The Herald is getting some love, apparently. We have some SCM speed boosts. Max speed boost to 1,450. Holy smokes, that thing is fast as heck, boy. Pitch goes down by -6%, and yaw -5, roll -6%. But the speed is insane. But it looks like a bullet. It should be fast. Then we have thrust capacity, main, going up plus 24%. Acceleration, main thrust, plus 15, retro, -5, strafe, -4, and so on. So basically small changes to the strafing and boost forward capacity, 600 to 670. That boost speed, dude. That boost speed, though. Main usage on the fuel is getting an increase above. I think it means above, right? When it increases. Fuel per second, or is that a nerf because it needs more fuel per second? Sorry, I'm not actually 100% sure, but this thing, it's like a bullet. It's super fast. Then we have here one of the buffs for salvaging. The extraction efficiency goes up by 37% for the Vulture. So it's basically what the Reclaimer lost, the Vulture got it back in form of a Vulture buff. And then we have a Glaive buff. That is relatively small changes, but pitch up 7%, yaw -4, roll +3. We have some more thrust capacities for main retro. Not much, 5%, 6%. Acceleration, strafe, even strafe going up a little, but the up goes down a little. Okay, and some fuel management with -16% consumption on the main thrusters. Then we have the Guardian series, pitch plus 13%, yaw plus 13%. It's actually going up even more after the sales, which is interesting, although I guess the Guardian MX is still on sale right now. But very interesting to see, because those things were already overperforming way more than compared to the F8C. And now they're getting an even higher pitch and yaw buff. 13%, the MX 11%, the QI 12%. Jeez, that is crazy, my friends. That is a lot of buffing and high numbers of rotational boosts. Okay, we have buffs for salvaging again, plus 37% as well for the Fortune. Similar to the Vulture, same buff coming in here. I don't know why the Reclaimer got hit with the opposite though. Freelancer, we have max speed by 4% increase, and roll and jaw going down a bit, yaw -6%. Then we have the Freelancer Door, somehow getting different numbers. Buffs in terms of max speed, pitch, minus yaw 6%, roll getting slight nerf, thrust capacity going up, acceleration, main, retro, all going to change a little bit here. Not much of a change, but overall it is a buff. Freelancer's getting some nerf, the Freelancer Max. Overall, slight nerf, I would say. Although, actually, no, it's a rather big nerf. Minus 6% pitch, 12% yaw, 10% roll. Maneuverability getting really lower on the cargo variant, which I guess makes sense if it's the cargo version. Then we have the missile variant getting a buff. Overall, also in mobility and maneuverability, so it's okay. We have the Reliant Core. I'm just trying to make it a little faster here. Pitch, yaw, roll, all nerfed for the Reliant series, and SCM speed also slightly nerfed, but not big, like 4%, 7%, 1% speed. That is okay, not a big thing. The 400i gets some love, which is nice, because it doesn't really have a lot going for it right now, but it will get faster. Component mass going up, but max speed to 1225, and also boost forward 450 to 500, and the boost backwards also slightly increased. And now comes another freaking nerf hammer against the Constellation series. We're getting SCM speed nerfed on the Andromeda to 190 from 200. Comparing to the Aquila, it gets down to 180 only. And the Phoenix to 185, and the Taurus will go down to, where is it? To 180 as well. So they're all getting slower, but the Andromeda, the combat variant, stays a little faster than the rest. Pitch goes down by 17% on the Andromeda, 30% yaw. Oh my god, same as the Corsair. Insane. These things will just fly like tanks after that. But not in regards to their armor, but more their mobility. Roll minus 25%. Forward and backward speed slight nerfs. We'll find the same here on the Aquila, although heavier nerfs on the speeds and similar nerfs on the mobility and maneuverability, except that it gets a little slower. The Phoenix stays a little faster, but not as fast as the Andromeda, but also gets the same hits on maneuverability. And the Taurus gets even more, man, because it's this universal super daily driver that can do hauling, it can do combat, it can do multi-crew. Dude, it's an awesome daily driver and one of the things that I advise everybody to get. If that was a starter pack with the Taurus, that's the one I would tell people to get if they have a bit more money, because it's this much more you get for it. But speed lower, max speed lower, even 950 only on nav speed. We have pitch, yaw, roll, heavy nerfs. Even the thrust capacity is going down. VTOL going up. The VTOLs are getting increased on the maneuvering here. Yeah, the rest is also fuel management. Fuel management getting, I think, increased, if I understand that correctly. Or does that mean fuel consumption again, like the fuel consumption goes up, so it's nerfs? Please tell me in the comments if you know what, if that means it goes up. But yeah, we have buffs for the Scorpius and Scorpius Antares. Pitch goes up 5%, yaw goes up 13%. Wow. Need to test this after the update. Then we have the Zeus series here, and we're at the end almost, with 10% pitch increase, yaw minus 3%, and VTOLs somehow from 400,000 to 0. It seems like the fuel consumption also goes to 0. I'm not sure. Something is being changed to the fuel and to the thrust capacities there on the Zeus that I don't quite fully understand. The ES cargo variant gets SCM speed buff and max speed buff to 1100, and that's basically it. And then we have the Scythe, the Van Duel Scythe, getting buffs on yaw with 16%, roll slight nerf. Then we have thrust capacity on main, 35% increase, maneuvering minus 10%. So overall, it seems like a decent buff for the Scythe, but strafe will go down overall. So its strafing speeds in all directions are slightly nerfed. Alright, so that much for this, but we're not done yet. There is more that I need to tell you about. For instance, here the minor rebalance in general for angular speed, providing improved maneuverability for heavy fighters and interceptors, which I've shown you. Medium fighters and interceptors, however, getting more like the opposite. You've also seen it. Gunboats, medium-sized, angular rotation speeds adjusted, SCM and nav top speeds adjusted, which we've seen. I'm not sure if they count for instance, the Corsair and the Andromeda into those, because I believe they do. I believe they count Corsair and Connies into that as gunboats. Other aspects: Mercury Star Runner, increased quantum fuel, and so on. Then we already saw the Ares Inferno Gatling improved accuracy. It's awesome. I've made a video about that. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. You can see with your eyes how much more accurate it is. Then the 400i also gets additional size 2 power plant and cooler back to the default loadout. Very nice, okay. And then we have here the reduced Reclaimer hull scraping efficiency, but increased for Vulture and Fortune. Then we have some interesting thing also. Where is it? Where they said it when you teleport. Here. Station defense updates. Increased health and damage output for the size 10 station modules defenses, and made improvement to the way they take damage to ensure that the weapon never stops firing before the base is destroyed, and will now delete the weapon of destruction. Okay, so be careful with those size 10 weapons on stations. They're no joke. They're gonna delete you instantly now. And also, very, very big point here, friends. Very important. I hope you're still with me here at that late time. To prevent uninvited players getting on board docked ships, technically any ship near enough to a station, we now teleport the trespassing players out of the ships they don't own, unless in a party with the owner, within 5 kilometers on ATC with teleport points. But that puts a lot of problems into the verse, my friends, because it means you can no longer pick up service for other players that aren't in your group. If you steal a ship somewhere as a pirate and you fly to the station with loot inside, it'll despawn you now, and the ship and the loot is gonna be lost. There are some really not very well thought through aspects of this, and the players are already seeing all of the problems and listing them down here. Here, if you're doing lawful things, your ship gets destroyed. If you abandon the ship and go on board another ship, then you get punished for it, and so on. Also, there's a number of really interesting summaries here from a player who lists a lot of things that are wrong. Hold on, here it is. He is very resourceful, this guy. His name is Paradox Parker, and he has a huge list of things that need to be fixed. If you still want me to read this, I can do it. The fuel capacity on the Banu Defender needs to be corrected. It's not a carrier-based fighter. It is a long-haul fighter that sticks with the merchantman. Should have greater range. Intrepid's IR signature is reading too high with default components and needs to be adjusted. Gravitational bikes keep falling through the elevator floors when requested repeatedly. Allow us to use service elevators to get them. That would be so helpful, yes. Also, I think everything that fits into the service elevator, like for example on the XL hangars, you should be able to spawn your what's it called here, the Ursa medic rover, for instance, there, right? Just make it easier. Players get stuck in Terrapin scanning chair. There was also a similar bug at the Hammerhead back in the days. This needs to be fixed. The radar on the Anvil Hornet tracker only says it's a size 1, but it's wrong. It should be a long-range radar. That's why it's the tracker variant of an Anvil Hornet. The radar module on the Hornet, emissions reduction module on the Anvil Hornet, not working. HDPC fairness will has major issues where you finish clearing the enemies out of the storage area, and so on. Ships are still displaying EM and ER signatures when powering down or powered down. Ships are still displaying external running lights and internal power lighting when powered down. Small things, but you know, he's right. If you power the ship down, it should be dark, right? Unless you really go and somehow press a button to change that. Ships are displayed external running lights and internal power-up lighting when powered down. Proper radar size and ranges for Gladiator and F7C Hornet, which at least should be size 2, and so on. So there's a huge list of changes that this Paradox Parker is listing here. I leave this for you here on screen so you can see it. For example, the C788 ballistic cannon needs explosive shells rather than performance returned back to maximum, and there's a lot of things. Idris K needs to Exodus 10 laser range increased. I'm not sure about that one though, because it is very powerful, that laser, and it could be dangerous to make it even more powerful. So some of those things are just his opinion, right? But a lot of them I can share in the beginning there. But yeah, so tons of changes, my friends. Let me know what you think about it. Also, what hits you the hardest. Tell me what are you most upset about? What are you most happy about? For me, the most happy thing is to see the F8C finally getting some love, and I hope it's not the last time. But what surprises me is that the Guardian's getting even more mobility, and what really makes me sad is the Reclaimer hit, the F7 Ghost hit, which I use a lot for PvP, but gonna have to deal with less maneuverability soon, and so on. But yeah, I'm not gonna make it any more long. I summarized everything for you like I always do. Hopefully you enjoy that. If you do, please consider staying tuned, subscribe to the channel, and I catch you in the next video. Manni signing off. Bye bye, my friends.